Listen, I want you to imagine a boy sitting at his desk late at night. The book Atomic Habits is open in front of him. He has underlined all the powerful sentences, circled all the big ideas, and he's thinking, this book is going to change my life. He believes tiny habits are the secret. 1% better every day. Small steps, no pressure, no rush. And slowly, without realizing it, he begins to misunderstand the message. Because here's the truth nobody tells him. Most people don't fail because habits are too hard. They fail because they misunderstand what tiny changes really mean. Let's talk about that. People read Atomic Habits and come away with a very comfortable idea. If I just do something small, success will automatically compound. So they create tiny habits that are so tiny they don't threaten their comfort. 5 push-ups, 2 minutes of reading, opening the notebook and closing it again. And slowly, tiny habits become a hiding place. They're not building discipline. They're maintaining motion without progress. This is the first misunderstanding. Tiny habits are not a shortcut to success. They are a starting point, not the final destination. But many people treat the starting point as the whole journey. They say, I went to the gym for 5 minutes. That means I'm improving. But ask yourself, honestly, are you improving or are you staying at a level where nothing feels uncomfortable? Because improvement is not the same as activity. And 1% better only matters when that 1% actually stretches you. There's another misunderstanding. People think tiny habits will automatically create motivation, so they wait. They wait for consistency to magically build identity. They wait for small wins to turn into big change on their own. But consistency without intention turns into routine without growth. You can meditate every day and still avoid facing your problems. You can read 10 pages a day and still never apply a single idea. You can write daily and never push yourself to improve your craft. Tiny habits were never meant to replace effort. They were meant to prepare you for effort. But many people stop at preparation. Let's go deeper. Another big misunderstanding is this. People use tiny habits to avoid failure. They choose goals that are so small they can never be disappointed. They design systems that guarantee they never feel pressure. They keep progress microscopic, so progress never feels risky. But growth always involves risk. Progress always involves discomfort. If your habits never scare you, if your routine never stretches you, if your actions never push you past convenience, then you're not growing. You're just maintaining. Tiny habits become a shield people hide behind. I'm building slowly. I don't want to rush. Consistency matters more than intensity. Yes, that's true. But sometimes that sentence becomes an excuse not to aim higher, an excuse not to level up, an excuse not to face the truth. Tiny habits are supposed to expand, not stay tiny forever. Let's talk about identity. Atomic Habits teaches every action is a vote for the type of person you want to become. Powerful idea, but many people misunderstand it. They think identity is created by repeating easy actions. They say, I read for 2 minutes, so I am a reader. I wrote 1 sentence, so I am a writer. I studied for 5 minutes, so I am disciplined. Identity doesn't come from doing the minimum. Identity comes from doing what is difficult, especially when you don't feel like it. 2 minutes is a doorway, but it is not the room. Staying at the doorway forever does not turn you into the person you want to be. Here's another trap. People assume that small steps are automatically directionally correct, but a small step in the wrong direction still takes you the wrong way. You can be consistent and still stuck, disciplined and still misaligned, habit-driven and still not moving toward your real goals, because habits without clarity are just motions without meaning. Many people optimize routines before they understand their purpose. They perfect habit trackers. They build beautiful schedules. They organize their workflow, but they never ask the real question, what am I actually trying to become?
Tiny habits without vision do not create transformation. They create comfortable stagnation. The boy reading Atomic Habits thinks tiny habits guarantee success, but success does not come from small. Success comes from small that grows. And that part, the growth, is where most people stop. They think, if I increase intensity, I will break consistency. But that is not the point. Consistency is the foundation. Intensity is the construction. You start small, but you do not stay small. And yet, many people make tiny habits their identity. They fall in love with low-effort progress. They chase streaks instead of results. They protect the habit instead of expanding the habit. They do not fail because habits don't work. They fail because they never evolve the habit. Let's talk about one last misunderstanding, perhaps the biggest one. People think tiny habits remove the need for discipline. They say, if I make habits small enough, I won't need willpower. But life does not work like that. There will be days when you are tired, unmotivated, overwhelmed, lost. Tiny habits help you stay anchored, but discipline is what helps you climb. Habits reduce friction. Discipline breaks barriers. If you rely only on tiny habits, you build a life that works only when conditions are easy. But real growth requires effort, discomfort, resilience. Tiny habits are the entry point to discipline, not the replacement for it. So here's the hard truth. Most people misunderstand Atomic Habits, not because the book is wrong, but because they interpret it in the most comfortable way possible. They use tiny changes to feel productive instead of becoming powerful. They replace growth with motion, progress with activity, purpose with routine. And then they wonder, why hasn't my life changed? It is not because habits failed. It is because they misunderstood their role. Tiny habits are not the destination. They are the launch pad. Now that we've exposed the misunderstanding, let's talk about the solution. Because tiny habits are not the problem. The problem is how people use them. Tiny habits are powerful when they are built with purpose, direction, and growth. So let's rebuild the idea from the ground up. The first principle is this: start tiny, but do not stay tiny. A tiny habit is a seed. Its purpose is not to remain small. Its purpose is to grow roots, then branches, then strength. When you begin a habit, the goal is not performance. The goal is activation. You are training your brain to show up without negotiation, without drama, without resistance. Once showing up becomes automatic, then the job of the habit changes from make it easy to make it meaningful. This is where most people stop, but this is exactly where you must begin. Here's how real progress works. Step 1, make the habit small enough to start. Step 2, make the habit structured enough to scale. You don't jump from 2 push-ups to 2 hours in the gym. You increase with intention. You add difficulty. You add volume. You add challenge. Not all at once, but deliberately, because growth requires progression. A habit that never evolves never transforms you. The second principle: tiny habits must connect to a bigger vision. Before building a routine, ask a hard question. What kind of person am I trying to become, and what standard does that identity require? If you want to become a disciplined student, your habits must eventually reflect discipline. If you want to become a serious athlete, your habits must eventually reflect effort. If you want to become a creator, your habits must eventually reflect output, not just motion. The habit begins small, but the direction must always point upward. Tiny habits are not about doing less forever. They are about making hard things feel increasingly normal. The third principle: measure progress by evolution, not streaks. People fall in love with streaks. I read every day. I journaled every day. I meditated for 90 days straight. But streaks can fool you, because a habit that stays comfortable becomes routine, not growth. So instead of asking, did I do it today? Ask, did today's version stretch me more than last month's version? Did your reading become deeper? Did your workouts become stronger? Did your studying become more focused? If the answer is no,
you are maintaining, not improving.
and finally, the last principle. Treat tiny habits as a staircase, not a destination. Every time a habit becomes stable, you step up from micro-action to meaningful action, to challenging action, to identity-defining action. If this video helped you, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with another student who needs this, because small habits can change entire futures. I'll see you in the next one.